Fuck HIPAA, my new patient hates me and there's nothing I can do about it.
Disclaimer, the content presented in this video is purely fictional and intended for entertainment purposes only.
In 1916, the badly decomposed and thoroughly dismembered corpse of an unidentified male was discovered in a Nebraska cornfield. Next to the corpse was an enormous pit of unknown origin. According to the farmer, neither the pit nor the body had been present the day prior. The pit was perfectly circular. Despite extensive investigation, authorities could not determine either its origin or depth. During this investigation, authorities noted the presence of shimmering, bizarrely shaped strands of light, almost like a web, within the pit. Within a few hours of this web appearing, bursts of uniquely colored fire appeared inside the hole for approximately 30 seconds at a time. The flames burned the light strands. Experts were unable to confirm the cause of the fire or the origin of the light strands. Fearing natural gas, sinkholes, or other dangers, authorities cordoned off the pit after the corpse was removed. Shortly thereafter, the pit began to grow. Worse, it began to change shape and dimension. Over the course of 6 hours, it changed from a perfect circle to a square. Within 2 hours, it had changed to a diamond, and from there to a particularly bizarre trapezoidal shape. Every time the pit's shape changed, the ground around it became markedly unstable and began to emit the same uniquely colored flames onlookers observed within the pit. The instability spread throughout the fields and soon threatened the farmhouse. Just as the ground surrounding the house began to collapse, the pit vanished. The ground resumed its normal properties and appearance. There were no anomalies, no instabilities, and no changes whatsoever compared to the day preceding the initial discovery of the corpse and the pit. In the farmer's words, everything was normal as before. In 1945, another badly decomposed and thoroughly dismembered corpse was discovered in an orange field near Bakersfield, California. Beside the corpse was a perfectly circular, perfectly black pit through which observers glimpsed shimmering, web-like strands of light and erratic eruptions of bizarrely hued flames that consumed the strands. Shortly after discovery, the pit changed shape and spread, creating a fundamental physical instability that threatened the entire orange grove and the highway nearby. Just as disaster seemed inevitable, the pit vanished and everything went back to normal. 2 years after that, another decomposed and dismembered corpse appeared suddenly in an undisclosed location near Boulder, Colorado. Beside it was a perfectly circular black pit of unknown depth. The events noted above repeated themselves, right down to the abrupt disappearance of the pit. The same sequence of events occurred 3 months later outside Reno, Nevada. They occurred again exactly 1 year later near Tulsa, Oklahoma. In total, a similar sequence of events occurred 58 times throughout the continental United States between 1916 and 2018. Each event was marked by the following similarities: discovery of a severely mutilated corpse, the sudden appearance of a perfectly circular and apparently bottomless pit, the presence of a web of light inside the pit, the appearance of bizarrely colored flames that appeared to burn the web of light, critical instability of surrounding geography, abrupt vanishing of the pit, and an equally sudden return to a normalcy, in which the affected matter returned to its appropriate state and properties. To date, no official explanation has been offered. In 2016, evidence on 3 of the corpses were tested independently by separate agencies. The corpses were discovered in 1960, 1999, and 2004 respectively. Each test yielded the identical DNA profile of an unidentified perpetrator. Over time, evidence from additional corpses associated with these anomalous pits were tested. While some were too old, too degraded, or too damaged to provide meaningful results, evidence from 41 corpses discovered between 1955 and 2016 yielded DNA from the same perpetrator. Based on these findings, authorities discreetly contacted their liaison at the Agency of Helping Hands, with the assistance of Inmate 14, Ward 1, the Notwich. The agency quickly identified the individual responsible for the entire sequence of events, including the murders and mutilations of the victims, the appearance of the anomalous pits, the fundamental breakdown caused by the existence of the pits, and finally, the vanishing of the pits and the subsequent reset to normalcy that followed. This individual was located and apprehended on December 21, 2020. This individual and his 10-year-old son were discovered in an apartment in Stanislaus County, California. His appearance was, and remains, distressing. The appearance of his son was far more distressing. For lack of a better term, the child was rotting, but he was not rotting consistently. Parts of him, notably his hands, feet, and eyes, exhibited unbroken skin and evidence of restricted blood flow. Other areas of the child's body displayed severe decomposition. Responding personnel noted multiple areas of skin slippage, exposed musculature, and exposed bone. The child expressed severe distress and pain, and begged both responding personnel to kill him. Before either could respond, the child's father said, "If you kill him, I'll end the world." While this seems an absurd threat out of context, personnel decided to hear him out. At the end of the conversation, it was agreed that the agency would make every effort to keep the child alive in exchange for his father's cooperation. To that end, the child receives weekly blood transfusions from inmate 22, Ward 1, Lifeblood. These transfusions are jointly overseen by the Medical Division and the Research and Development Unit. It should be noted that the child is the only individual whom inmate 22 is not able to heal or fully restore. Her contributions keep the child alive without further need of his father's ministrations. In other words, they maintain his condition without improving it. While agency administration have grave ethical concerns regarding this matter, under no circumstances are these concerns to be broached with the child's father. It should be noted that the child exhibits extreme aversion to his treatments, but his poor physical condition precludes resistance. The child's father is an individual named Asher T. Asher is the only inmate known to NASCU who originates from a destroyed parallel. He is also the only inmate known to have destroyed a parallel. Agency officials believe he has the ability to destroy additional parallels. For this reason, he is classed as an egregore. His unique moniker derives from his abilities combined with his habit of referring to himself as an atomic bomb. It should be noted that inmate 17, Ward 1, the Harlequin, has claimed credit for extinguishing that bomb boy every time he falls. What precisely he means by this is not currently known, and he has refused to elaborate further. In the past, inmate 17 has also stated that, "My darling girl will kill him one day." Serves him right for putting his hands on her. He also refused to elaborate on that statement, but following recent events surrounding T-Class Agent Rochelle B.'s unusual personnel file, agency officials now believe they grasp his meaning. It should be noted that Asher has repeatedly expressed extreme hostility toward Rochelle B. upon learning that she is also incarcerated at NASCU. He has threatened her well-being on a daily basis since her arrival. Due to the critical threat he poses to her safety, agency officials assigned T-Class Agent Michael W. to accompany her to this interview in order to discourage Asher from harming her. It should be noted that the agency feels it would be best to terminate Asher at the earliest opportunity. For reasons known only to himself, inmate 17 made Asher aware that this is the agency's position. Asher has explicitly expressed that he is not concerned for his safety at this time, only that of his son. Asher is a white male with a chronological age of 36 and a biological age of approximately 70 to 75. He is 5 feet 9 inches tall, with gray hair and eyes that are a highly unusual orange hue. While slender, he is extremely powerful. His primary diagnosis is intermittent explosive disorder. It must be noted that Asher has displayed violent tendencies and violent impulses on a number of occasions, as well as difficulty controlling his impulses. He has also exhibited severe obsessive tendencies. Asher's ability is utterly extraordinary. To understand it, one must understand that reality itself is fundamentally unstable. Under the right, or rather, wrong, circumstances, it can break down, metastasize, or even consume itself. Unfortunately, Asher's son induces the wrong circumstances simply by virtue of existing. Asher, however, has the ability to undo the damage wrought by these circumstances. In ways the agency does not fully understand, he patches the damage caused by his son's existence by utilizing material, the nature of which is not currently understood, to reintroduce and maintain stability. He makes these repairs without regard to the restrictions of time and space. In other words, Asher can essentially time travel when he is fixing his son's damage. while the agency is grateful to Asher for his work, it cannot be denied that his services are required only because of what he has inflicted on his son. While Asher is not currently destructible by any known means, he is aging rapidly and is not in satisfactory physical health. It is the agency's hope that he will soon pass of natural age-related causes. In the event that he does not or cannot pass of natural causes, the agency's Research and Development Unit is currently investigating methods of termination. It should be noted that Asher strongly associates his wife from his parallel of origin, Ray, with Rochelle B. Once again, Asher does not originate from this parallel. While this parallel has its own version of Asher, agency officials believe he currently lives in inmate 17 City Bright. It should be noted that inmate 17 denies this, and has stated that he would never house a man who put his hands on my darling girl. By way of treatment and neutralization for Asher, the interviewer suggests the agency utilizes inmate 2, Ward 1, the Bye Bye Mommy, to create an immersive reality based on the dream Asher repeatedly references. Interview subject: son of Hadron, classification string, cooperative/indestructible/gayan/constant/substantial/egregore, under investigation. Interviewers: Rochelle B. Michael W. Date: January 6, 2025, my wife left me 58 times. Every time she left, our son died. Every time he died, I brought him back to life. I know that's crazy. What's crazier is I was only able to bring him back because of a tattoo I got when I was 17. I got the tattoo at a street carnival. It was red ink and took up my whole palm. Even though I had that tattoo for years, I don't remember what it looked like because looking at it made me sick. Like everything else in my life at the time, that carnival was fucked up. It was the kind of place no one should ever go. Probably the kind of place no one is supposed to ever go. I never would have found it if my sister's creepy boyfriend hadn't dragged us there. His name was Jason, and he was an even bigger loser than I was. Even creepier, too, if you can believe it, Jason dragged us right up to the ticket booth. But instead of giving me a ticket, the worker bit me and licked up the blood. Then he told me I tasted like an atomic bomb, and waved me through. My sister came next. The worker bit her and licked up her blood too, then said she tasted like a black hole and shoved her through. Then it was Jason's turn. The worker bit him and licked up his blood. But then he spat it out and said Jason tasted like nothing at all, and carnivals have no room for nothing. Jason looked crushed. That made me laugh. What can I say? I was an asshole. I didn't laugh for long because everything in the carnival was insane. Worse, everything in it was wrong. I still had the time of my life. I don't like what that means about me. In my defense, I didn't think anything in the carnival was actually real. I assumed I was seeing things because I was high. Being high was kind of my default state back then. When my sister and I finally had our fill of crazy, we staggered back to the entrance where Jason was waiting. He yelled at us for going in without him, then broke up with her. He was such an asshole, we both were. About 2 months later, we both proved just how assholish we were when the new girl moved in. Her name was Ray. She was really tough on the outside, but soft as soft could be inside. Soft enough to eat alive. She was desperate to belong, and I was more than happy to help. She was too young. My sister even said so. I didn't agree. No one ever thinks they're too old for someone they want. I don't know if Jason wanted her to, or if he was just punishing me. Either way, he got his claws in before I could. Of course he fucked it up. Fucked her up, too. I didn't fuck anything up. Instead, I showed her the magic carnival. Guess who she liked better? You know the answer because she's you. You know you always liked me better. You were soft inside, but you were still a monster. Jason didn't like that about you. But I did. I didn't get to like it for long because you ran away. You ran away from me even though I helped you grow your scales. I kept going to the carnival after you left. I always hoped to find you there, but you never came back. That was your loss. The carnival was insane and it was wrong, but it was pure magic. The magic cleaned me up inside. It scorched me clean and gave me dreams of cosmic fire that burned holes in the world and bored tunnels through star fields and illuminated darkness that stretched so incomprehensibly far in every direction that it might as well have been eternal. Before the carnival, my insides were dark like that. Endless, eternal, impenetrable darkness. The carnival lit my darkness, lacing me with light. It was beautiful. I was beautiful. Whenever I closed my eyes, I saw the bright eternity inside myself. It was so beautiful and it was so horrifying. My tattoo taught me how to use that fire. The design that made me dizzy and sick whenever I looked at it somehow held every secret to every universe. It taught me to use the fire to bore tunnels of my own. Best and worst of all, it taught me how to crawl through those tunnels. I saw things no one has ever seen. I stood on the ragged edge of reality, where existence itself is yet an erupting and unstable frontier. I knelt before supernovae and magnetars as the force split my atoms split apart. Only to blink and find myself kneeling once again the instant before the explosion. I was destroyed and remade, destroyed, remade, destroyed, remade. Soon, I learned to destroy and remake, destroy and remake, destroy and remake, again and again and again in an eternal loop of destruction and rebirth. It is beautiful, but it is horror beyond horror. I did not want to be eternity. I did not want to burn, or be burned, or destroy, or be destroyed, or make, or be remade. So one night, instead of going to the carnival, I found my stepmother's potato peeler. Then I got very, 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 very high. As high as you can be without passing out. Then I peeled the skin off my palm. The tattoo came with it. It bled. But the blood didn't come out. It sank in, because the place where the tattoo had been was now a hole, a tunnel. Through the tunnel, I saw an eternity of starless dark laced with cosmic fire. The hole in my hand pulled at me. It felt like gravity itself dragging me from the inside out. I thought I was going to fall through the hole and tumble through the darkness until I reached the ragged edge of existence, where I would kneel and scream while my atoms were split, then remade again and again and again forever, with no end. I didn't fall in. Instead, I woke up. I looked at my hand. It hurt so much it burned. But that burn wasn't fire. It was just a raging infection. And the wound was just a wound. I was so relieved I cried. Without the tattoo, the darkness grew back. But that was okay. It was better. After that, I got my life together somehow. I ended up in the Navy and got assigned to a nuclear submarine. While I was on the submarine, I had nightmares, endless dark, endless destruction, endless rebirth. Sometimes when I woke up from the nightmares, the hole in my hand was back. Through it I would always see the endless dark veined with cosmic fire. When I wasn't on the submarine, I had no nightmares. Only good dreams, mostly of Ray. And I had no hole in my palm, only a scar, so I didn't re-enlist, and when I got out, I found Ray. She didn't want to be found. But I insisted. She tried to leave a couple of times, a lot of times, but I made it hard. It was easy to make it hard for you. I thought you stayed because you loved me, but now I think you just stayed because I made it hard. We had a baby. We named him Jackson, like basically everyone did that year. We didn't know everyone named their baby that, though. We just knew he was Jack before we ever met him, that's all. I was more excited than you. A lot more excited. I think that surprised us both. It was okay. I figured you had PPD. And I knew you'd had a worse childhood than even me, so who knows what it was dredging up for you. It didn't help that I wasn't the best boyfriend. In fact, I was a pretty shit one, but I was a damned good dad. I loved our baby so much. That love burned brighter than the carnival light could ever hope to burn. It burned away the endless darkness inside me and transformed it into light. Eternal endless light scorching me clean and eating me alive. It hurt so much, but I loved how it hurt. You didn't love him that way, you thought there was something wrong with him. It was so bad I was afraid to leave you alone with him. One morning, I heard Jack fussing. I followed the sound to the living room. You were standing still as a statue in the thick, consumptive light spilling through the window, like rotten melted gold. You were holding my son and staring into his eyes. It should have been beautiful. The end of whatever mental block you had for him. Instead, you said, "There's something wrong with our baby. He wants to tell me what it is, but he doesn't know how. I don't ever want him to learn how. I don't ever want to know. Ash, I don't want to know. I want to make sure I never know." You didn't want to hurt him. I'll give you that. You just wanted to hurt yourself, and you did. I got you out of the house on a psych hold. When you were gone, I remembered how to breathe again after not being able to breathe for so long I'd forgotten how. Like I could finally rest because the monster had departed and was no longer waiting in the endless dark. Jack died that night. I woke up and he wasn't there. He hadn't been there for a while. The light inside me didn't go out, it burned brighter, eating me as I screamed for my son. The light ate holes in my body and reopened the wound in my hand. That wound became a tunnel, and it was full of light and gravity pulling me inside. I wanted to be dead. I wanted the light to eat me. So for the first time in years, I got really, really high, and I let the gravity pull me into the tunnel. I didn't die, I dreamed. You were in the dream. You were so happy and healthy. You were holding him in our living room in a way I've never seen you hold him. Even though I saw you, you didn't see me. I was invisible. I wasn't there to you. I don't think I've ever been there to you. Your mother was there too. You were glad. You were never glad to see her. Jack sat in your lap, pulling your hair and picking at your shirt and babbling. In the middle of babbling, he looked at me, he looked at me. He saw me. I was there to him, and then he reached for me with the biggest smile I've ever seen. I stared back at him. I stared and stared and stared as love ate me alive and thought, why can't I just stay here and stare at you forever? Then I woke up, I heard Jack fussing. Before I could think too hard, I got out of bed. I found you in the living room, still as a statue in the thick, consumptive light spilling through the window, like rotten melted gold. You were holding my son, staring into his eyes. It should have been beautiful. But you ruined it by saying, "There's something wrong with our baby. He wants to tell me what it is, but he doesn't know how. I don't ever want him to learn how. I don't ever want to know. Ash, I don't want to know. I want to make sure I never know." Then you gave me the worst look anyone has ever given me. Then you said, "This has already happened. I remember this. I don't want this. I don't want this again. I don't want to be here again. I'd rather die." You still didn't want to hurt him. I'll give you that. You just wanted to hurt yourself, and you did. I didn't call 911 this time. I talked you down. I kept you alive all by myself. I stayed up all night with you, and watched Jack as he slept. In the morning, he was fine, he stayed fine, until you left us again 3 years later. I deserved it. He didn't. You left on a Saturday morning while Jack watched kid shows. I took him to church the next morning. On the way there, we got T-boned and he died on impact. The light inside me didn't go out. It only grew. The scar on my hand burned open into a tunnel. I went through. I dreamed my favorite dream, where you are happy and no one sees me except our baby. The dream where I get to stare at my smiling son forever. And I woke up on that Saturday morning to the sound of Jack blaring kid shows on the TV. You woke up next to me a few minutes later. When you heard him laughing in the living room. You asked me why this was happening again. "Because I'm a good father," is what I said. You cried, then you packed up and left. I let you, and decided I just wouldn't go to church the next day. But Jack had a seizure that night and died. As I stared at his body, the hole in my hand burned itself open. I let gravity pull me into the cosmic fire within, where I dreamed my favorite dream. Then I woke up again on Saturday morning to the sound of Jack singing along to kids' shows on the TV. You woke up at the same time, and you cried so hard. You cried even harder when I didn't let you leave. You tried a couple times, but you gave up after I hurt you. Hurting you actually was an accident. But I wasn't sorry. I'm still not sorry, because it kept you there. About a year later, Jack started showing signs you didn't like. I didn't like those signs either, but I didn't do anything because you were already coming down so hard on him. He was only 5. And it crushed him. Of course it did, you were his mother. The one person who's supposed to love him no matter what. What was I supposed to do except defend him from you? When he was 7, you left for the 3rd time. You snuck away in the middle of the night. Do you have any idea what it's like to wake up at 6 on a regular Wednesday morning to find your wife gone and your 2nd grader blue and cold in his bed? Do you care? Would you care? Can you care? The tunnel in my hand burned open. I went through and I had my favorite dream. When I woke up, the world reset to the Tuesday night before he died. I opened my eyes just as you left, I stopped you, and in the morning, our son was fine, he was fine for 2 more years, you weren't fine. I don't think you were ever fine again. I'm sorry for that. But he's my son. He's the one who fills me with light, even when those signs you didn't like, the signs I didn't like, started stacking up and up and up, he still filled me with light. One night, I caught you talking to him in that special way you do. I didn't hear what he said. I just know it made you cry in a way I have never seen anyone cry. When I caught you talking to him in that special way you shouldn't, you told me there was something terribly wrong with him. You said he wasn't supposed to exist. That's why he kept dying, because he wasn't supposed to be. I hated you for that. You had the privilege of being the only thing keeping him alive and healthy, a privilege I would end the world to have, and did not care. You didn't want him. You didn't love him. But you still had all the power over him. I tried to make you understand this, but you screamed over me. You screamed that he was your mistake, and you were going to fix that mistake. That made him cry, and that made me furious. My son isn't a mistake. He's made mistakes. He's suffered for your mistakes, and suffered immensely for mine. That suffering has ruined him, but he's my son, and ruined or not, he is just a little boy, my little boy. I love him so much the love eats me alive until there's nothing left of me except that love, and then the love remakes me. Again and again. Destruction and rebirth. You killed yourself that night. I went into the hole in my hand after you died, but before he did. I went past eternal darkness laced with cosmic fire. Jack was the fire. Jack was light. You were dark. You were always so dark. You will always be so dark. I dreamed my favorite dream, where you're happy and healthy and oblivious to me. And where I don't care because my son sees me and smiles just for me. When I woke up, I heard you talking to him in that special way you do. I stopped him before he could even answer you. I don't know if that was the mistake. I don't know if resetting the world before he actually died was the mistake. I don't know if resetting the world 4 times in total was the mistake. I don't know if the universe or God or the laws of existence or some crazy loophole gave me 3 chances to save my son, but decided a 4th was too many. All I know is the day after that, the world started to fall apart. Within a week, it was as good as gone, so I reset the world again. You tried to stop me. You tried to stay behind. You told me, I'd rather die than be with you. I made you be with me anyway. I took us through the eternal darkness. I closed my eyes and dreamed my favorite dream, where you're happy and where you never tell me you'd rather die than be with me, where my son reaches for me even though you're the one holding him. And when I woke up, Jack was 3 years old again and blaring kids shows on the TV. He was 3, but I was still the same age I'd been when he was 9. You weren't. You were the age he'd been when he was 3. I don't know how that works. Maybe because you're special. Maybe because you know how to talk to people in that special way. Or maybe just because you're dark. Everything happened again, exactly the same, all of it, except the very end, where I stopped you from ever talking to him in your special way, even though you never talked to him, even though he never told you the terrible things that made you cry, the things that made you decide he wasn't supposed to exist. You left again that same night. Why do you always leave? Why will you always leave? I stayed up with him all night, but it didn't matter. He didn't make it to morning. He can't ever make it without you, so I reset the world again. This time the reset went wrong, this time I got lost in the tunnel. I knelt at the edge of existence in an endless cycle of destruction and rebirth for so long I forgot everything but my son. I even forgot you. When I returned, I remembered. But you were already gone and Jack was alone, sobbing. I picked him up and together we went into the night to find you, but there was something very wrong. There were lights in the sky. Vast bodies of light made of eyes and teeth, gliding through the sky and burning craters into the darkness. Jack began to seize in my arms. That's when I knew I would never find you. Around us, the world was turning into light. Shards and ribbons of it drifted down and burned the dark away along with everything beneath it. All the matter of, and beneath, and around existence. All the matter, and all that matters, the tunnel opened in my hand. A haven of darkness shot through with cosmic fire. I went through, but this time I didn't dream my favorite dream. Instead I saw the world end in teeth and light. Devastation, the destruction of everything that ever was and had ever been and would ever be. Particles and shards and billows and atoms. All the pieces needed for a whole entire world, drifting in the vast and endless dark. Just so you know, I used those pieces first. I used every last one of those pieces before I ever even dreamed of breaking a single piece off another world. We stared at it forever, our son and I, wishing you were there to see it with us. He was so sad without you. So immensely heartbroken. To cheer him up, I taught him how to bore tunnels of his own. How to banish darkness with endless light. That made him smile again. I loved to make him smile, but I would give anything to undo that lesson. When the lesson was done, we closed our eyes. I dreamed my favorite dream, and then I woke up. Jack was 3 years old again, blaring cartoons on the TV. You were in bed next to me, young like him. I was old, but I didn't care. I didn't care when you woke up and cried, either. I didn't even care when you told me to let you die. I did care when you told me to let him die before I destroyed everything. I was more careful with this reset. Much more careful with him, and even more careful with you. But you still left us, again and again and again. You left us, no matter what I did to make you stay. No matter how badly I hurt you to keep you with us, you still always found a way to leave. Every time you left, my son died, and every time I reset the world to bring him back, he became worse, worse and worse and worse. Through every reset, his worseness stayed and compounded. And I kept aging. You're the only one who never changed at all. Maybe because you were special. Maybe because you didn't love us. Or maybe just because you're dark. No matter what I did, you left in the end, and after you left, my son always died. I reset the world again and again and again to save him, but I never saved him. I never stopped you leaving. I never stopped him dying. Finally, I reset the world so many times it broke into pieces forever. Once it was broken, I couldn't reset it again. I could only watch the destruction drifting through the darkness. After that final reset, I closed my eyes and went through the tunnel to search for other worlds. To find the world in my favorite dream, I never did. I searched for eternity. I searched everything. I searched from the beginning of beginnings to the end of ends, and did not find it. To my horror, I did not even find another world where our son existed. Out of all the worlds, he was born in only one. And I had destroyed it. If you had just stayed with us like you were supposed to, I never would have had to save him. I never would have broken reality into pieces to try and fail to keep him alive. It's your fault. You kill him, always. You are his death. When I finally accepted that, I realized I had my answer. The way for him to live without you was to make sure you were never his mother. So that is what I did. I chose a place where he was never born, and brought him there, but it was too late. Even though I finally saved his life, I was too late to save him. Now he's ruined. I don't know if it's more your fault or mine or his. All I know is you were right. There's something wrong with our baby, and now that I know what it is I would give everything not to know. But he's my baby boy. So I learned how to repair him. He needs fresh new pieces. Fresh new pieces from fresh new bodies. I know it's awful. But it's the only way. He's falling apart. Every minute of every day, he's falling apart. So I figured out how to fix him, how to put him back together with fresh new pieces. The people those pieces come from don't deserve what I do, but it's not about deserving. It's about what my son needs. and he needs lots of new pieces, all the time. Because when you live in a place you never existed at all, that place eats you alive. Like antibodies attacking a virus, but my son isn't a virus, he's a little boy, I brought him here to save him. That's all, I brought him to a world where we don't have to think about you. This is where he has to be. My broken baby boy, my boy who can have no mother, my boy who isn't supposed to exist. My boy whose existence is such a violation that the world eats him, and he eats it right back. Saving him was wrong. It was an abomination. It was a horror, but I love him so much. I love him so much it eats the darkness. This love consumes the darkness that is him. It consumes him, leaving only itself. Leaving only eternal, endless light veined with cosmic fire. I have to love him that way, because you never loved us at all. Love is why I do what I do. Why I take the pieces, the molecules, the cells, the atoms of the world I accidentally destroyed to maintain this one. Because he's here, and it costs other worlds. I know that. The price of his life is destruction on an incomprehensible scale. It isn't worth it to anyone or anything but me, I know that, but if you try to stop me, I will take him to another world, because you're not his mother in any of the other worlds anyway, and break this world down to keep the new one running. What else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live without him? How was I supposed to stay in a world that didn't even want him to exist? How was I supposed to forgive a world that killed him again and again and again? How am I supposed to forgive you? I know you're not her. But even though you aren't her, I will never forgive you, and now you know why. You know that my son isn't supposed to exist in a place where he was never born at all. You know his presence is making your world fall apart. You know his presence would make any world fall apart. Most importantly, you know that his presence is what's keeping me from breaking your world down into pieces to fix a different one. As long as he's here, he will eat holes in the world. But as long as he exists, I will fix those holes, I will always patch them. I will always fill them. I will always destroy and break down other worlds to keep this one whole because he's in it. It's not my fault. It's yours. Why did you leave him? Why couldn't you just love us? You could have been fully light. Instead, you were only dark. You're always dark, you will always be dark. I still dream my favorite dream, the dream where I'm invisible, where you're made of light and where you laugh with your mom and hold our son. Where no one sees me but our baby. Where he just stares and smiles at me. I still wonder where that world is, where everything is right, where it's all how it's supposed to be, where you're happy, where you love him and you love me, where our baby is still a baby and the world is ahead of all of us, where my son sees me and smiles. I've looked for that world since the beginning of time, but I have never been able to find it and I have never been able to build it. But I still see it, I still want to know why I can't stay there, invisible to everyone but my son, and stare at him forever. I would do anything if I could just stay and stare at my baby forever.